Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 2017 Visioneers team, Alzheimer's Disease, led by bold innovator Dr. Philip Edgecombe, an innovator, entrepreneur, and scientist, and special presenter Lisa Genova, a neuroscientist and best-selling author of Still Alice.
Hello. We are here to end Alzheimer's. Before we describe our X Prize competition, how many of you know someone who's been affected by Alzheimer's? Yeah. If this disease hasn't directly impacted your life yet, it will. Here in the US, there are 5.5 million people living with this disease. That's about the same number of people living in LA, Boston, and Washington, D.C. combined. Globally, there are nearly 50 million people living with Alzheimer's today, and that number is grossly underestimated because obtaining a diagnosis is close to impossible for millions. How many people here would like to live to be 85 years old? Yeah. Okay, well, let's imagine that we've all managed to do that and that we're all 85. Now, everybody look at two people. One of you has Alzheimer's. And if you're thinking that the odds will be in your favor, then okay, you are a caregiver. We can expect to live at least 30 more years than we did 100 years ago, but with that increase in longevity comes the very real risk of losing our minds and our lives to Alzheimer's. As Craig Ventnor from Human Longevity Inc. says, it's not just a long life we're striving for, but one which is worth living. Alzheimer's is 100% fatal and 100% untreatable. We have no treatments for Alzheimer's that change the course of the disease. Nothing slows it, nothing stops it. There are 0 Alzheimer's survivors. The number of people around this world with this disease will triple by 2050. This disease is aiming to level us all.
Well, pinch me. I'm on stage with Lisa Genova, my dear friend and teammate for the last 6 months. As we all know, X Prize is about crowdsourcing and gamifying innovation to solve enormous and complex problems that aren't being solved through the limited lenses and restrictions of the traditional methods. And so we are here today to propose an X Prize roadmap to end Alzheimer's. Now imagine that you are at a river and you see a continuous stream of millions of people floating down the river and drowning. How will you save them? Will you jump in and try to pull them out one at a time? That might work. But the real breakthrough will come when you go upstream and you find the bad guy that's pushing everyone in and force them to leave. And so with our X Prize, we are challenging innovators to go upstream and find that bad guy. And in the second phase, we're challenging the crowd to force that bad guy out. Now, most scientists believe that the disease process in Alzheimer's begins 10 to 20 years before the first symptoms appear. This means we have a window of opportunity, a decade or more, when the disease is brewing but hasn't yet set the brain ablaze with the irreversible pathology, when we are still symptom-free, when this disease is curable. So to make this a reality, the winning team will find a biotarget that is actionable. True to Peter's point earlier, we are looking for a target. The biotarget must predict the appearance of Alzheimer's and have the potential to be modified to prevent the progression of the disease. The competition criteria are that the biotarget measurement must be accurate and actionable, and we believe that everyone should benefit from our X Prize. So it also must be 10 times less expensive than an Alzheimer's brain scan, that's about $200, and no more invasive than a blood draw. Since our goal is early detection and intervention, an effective biotarget must be present at the pre-symptomatic stages of the disease and throughout the disease. Now, we're solution agnostic. Teams can do blood tests, monitor the electrical activity of the brain, use ultrasound imaging or the connected home. Really anything they want, as long as they satisfy our prize competition criteria. In practice, this works out to be a 4-year competition. In the first 18 months, teams from all over the world, including immunologists, data miners, physicists, and AI programmers, and even science teachers can enter. And in phase 2 and 3, there'll be a down select which gets us to phase 2 and 3, in which competitors will come to our medical facility and be given a cohort of human test subjects. The winner will identify a biotarget that is measurable before Alzheimer's symptoms occur, that predicts who will develop Alzheimer's disease within the next 2 years. Detected changes with the onset of Alzheimer's then become the actionable target that innovators can aim their tools at to end this disease.
So why do we need an X Prize competition to end Alzheimer's? Even with all the personal familiarity with this disease, there's still a real lack of awareness of the severity of this problem. The rate of death due to most major diseases has dropped significantly over the last 15 years, but death due to Alzheimer's has increased by 89%. Almost 1 million people will die from Alzheimer's this year in the US. That's more than the number of deaths from breast cancer and prostate cancer combined. We spend $250 billion every year caring for Alzheimer's, yet funding for Alzheimer's research continues to be abysmal. If we don't change course, the cumulative cost of caring for Alzheimer's patients in the US is expected to reach $20 trillion by 2050. So why has Alzheimer's suffered from a lack of government funding? Well, this disease has been enveloped in a shroud of fear, shame, stigma, and secrecy. We've all been too afraid to talk about it. But if no one is talking about it, the problem doesn't seem to really exist. It's time we all start yelling. It's also been unfairly depicted as a disease of the dying elderly, an image that does not inspire urgency or priority. I mean, are you still sitting there thinking this is someone else's disease, belongs to the elderly? Do you think this belongs to some other distant generation? You heard Philip. This disease begins 10 to 20 years before symptoms appear. It's already forming in your brains right now as I speak. So we've been ignoring it and not investing in solving it. How are we doing with diagnosing it? When my grandmother was told that she had Alzheimer's in the 1990s, the world's best neurologists at the time could only diagnose this disease with 100% certainty through autopsy. Not a great option if you're still alive. The current methods for detecting Alzheimer's are PET scans and spinal taps. These are way too expensive and invasive. They're not covered by insurance. They're frightening. They carry their own health risks. They're inaccessible to most people. Virtually no one gets them. And they're often not accurate and sensitive enough to detect this disease early enough. We have to discover a way to detect Alzheimer's in its earliest moments if we're going to end this disease. Let me say it another way. In order for the end of Alzheimer's to be our reality, a treatment has to be administered before people are symptomatic or in the very earliest stages of the disease. Think about it. We've all seen incredible advancements in medicine leading to treatments and survivors in previously hopeless and lethal diseases. In all of these cases, the cure or treatment is administered before the symptoms occur or very early in the disease. And this prediction informs intervention. Polio vaccinations are given before a person is infected with the virus. Cancer is predicted by tumor growth, and survival rates are exponentially higher if we treat at stage 1 versus stage 4. Heart disease is predicted by cholesterol and hypertension, and these measures are targets for intervention and prevention.
So why don't we have a polio vaccine or cholesterol equivalent for Alzheimer's? Why haven't we figured out an approach for detecting and predicting Alzheimer's and identifying a target that can be modified to prevent the progression of the disease? The scientific, academic, business, and government frameworks and systems we're currently working in are very 20th century, and they just aren't effective. I mean, they haven't cured the disease. Academia research tends to be very safe because if academics take risks that don't pay off, they'll never see another dime of research dollars. And so it takes years for these labs to make the smallest increments in knowledge that would meaningfully contribute to finding a cure to this disease. Industry has been ignoring detection because they view treatment as the holy grail. Yet their clinical drugs have failed time and time again, in part because the people in these trials were already symptomatic. They were too far into the progression of the disease. It was too late. Attempting to treat Alzheimer's after symptoms occur is like blowing out a match after the brain is already set ablaze, hoping this will extinguish the fire. Additionally, no one is talking to each other. Information isn't shared. We have almost no collaboration. Everyone is working on this puzzle in their own silos, and so the puzzle doesn't get solved. We are living in a complete market failure. The status quo is burdened with barriers restricted to a limited way of thinking, stuck in a box. And XPRIZE eliminates this box. XPRIZE isn't constrained by the existing and failing frameworks. We can pose the problem not just to a handful of demoralized, underfunded, handcuffed neuroscientists, but to all 7 billion people on the planet, to find, inspire, and incentivize anyone who has the talent, the fresh perspective, and the innovation tools. People in brain imaging, artificial intelligence, data science, brain hacking, digital biology, genetics, biosensors, and neural interfaces are all capable of discovering a breakthrough in Alzheimer's. But without an XPRIZE competition, they're not even invited to the table. XPRIZE is the perfect and only model in existence for inviting these minds to get involved. We will use XPRIZE to crowdsource a global conversation about this terrifying disease. And the world is ready for this conversation. In early September, we held a press conference announcing to the world our intentions to end Alzheimer's through XPRIZE. And get this, our story was covered in 56 countries. Our goal is to reduce the stigma and shame, to empower people to think about their brain health like they do their heart health, and to inspire collaborative discoveries and treatments that will end this disease before it becomes the economic, social, and emotional sinkhole of the 21st century.
So why am I here today? Like, why have I been fielding emails from Philip at 3 a.m. and
Sorry, Lisa.
talking to Ken Dykewald and George Vadenberg more than I do my mom? Well, I've been enormously frustrated and disheartened by the status quo. Personally, I don't care who solves this. I'm not looking for tenure or a promotion or a raise. I'm not a shareholder or a CEO or trying to win the Nobel Prize. My skin in this game is that I'm a human being, just like all of you. And I'm getting older, just like everyone here. And I see the Alzheimer's tsunami coming, and it's horrifying. None of us are safe from this. But a solution is within reach if we get behind it. Alzheimer's cannot be our collective destiny, the unthinkable price that we must pay for longevity. We have to match brain span to lifespan. Every 66 seconds, someone in the US develops Alzheimer's. We're at about 1 person a minute. The clock is ticking. We can't afford to wait. If we do nothing, all of you will be impacted by this disease in some way. People you love are going to lose their minds to this disease. You might be losing your mind right now. So we are asking all of you to help us today. Vote for us. Vote for yourself. Vote for your loved ones. Wiping out Alzheimer's is the ultimate challenge of this lifetime. There's nothing bigger. Alzheimer's is the biggest threat to our humanity that this planet has ever known, and X Prize is our best hope.
Lisa, I couldn't agree with you more that our X Prize is the best hope we have for ending Alzheimer's. But without funding, it will stay that way, just a hope. So are you guys ready for a drop the mic moment? Because we have two very special guests here today that we are looking forward to inviting to the stage, because they share with us, X Prize and our team, a vision for a future without Alzheimer's. So please give a warm welcome to Rick and Jean Edelman, the founders of Edelman Financial Services.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My wife Jean is joining us electronically, kind of fits in the mode, right, with exponential technologies. Jean is back in Virginia where she's hosting a conference of her own and so couldn't be here physically, so Jean is here virtually. And you better stop soon, Jean, or you're going to keep going off the edge.
I'll be in your laps. Well, thank you very much, and I'm so excited to be beaming in to talk to you tonight. Just a little background, Rick and I, we met in college in 1977, and we married, and 4 years later, we started our business, Edelman Financial Services. And our company, we've helped so many families with their financial lives, only to see this devastating disease and the impact it has on them. It's not only bad for the patient, but it's emotionally and financially devastating for these families. Rick and I, we have been one of the 10 financial supporters in this initiative for the past 5 years. And so now we feel it's really time for us all to work together and crack this code on Alzheimer's so that all of our children and all of our retirees in the future can live a happy and healthy life without this disease. Rick.
Our financial planning firm, Edelman Financial Services, is a little different from most in the financial services sector. We have 35,000 clients all around the country, and most of our clients are middle-class Americans, not the high net worth and ultra high net worth who most Wall Street firms tend to target. And our focus, therefore, since we're dealing with middle-class Americans, is simply to help our clients achieve financial security in retirement. And we have seen so many times the devastation financially. Forget about the physical toll, forget about the emotional toll on the patients as well as their families. As financial planners, we see the financial toll on these families that destroys themselves and, in many cases, the lives of their children from a financial perspective. And that is why we are so concerned and committed to helping to participate in the eradication of Alzheimer's. We're told that because this is, at the end of the day, one of the most challenging medical issues, that it's going to take $10 million to create an X Prize to motivate and incentivize teams around the world, and another $15 million to provide the infrastructure and operational support to enable those teams to achieve the goal that we are laying out. And so we want to share with you this evening that Jean and I have decided that if the Alzheimer's X Prize is selected as the winner of this competition, it is our intention to provide the $25 million in funding to make this happen. And so we ask you, please, for your vote, for yourselves, for your parents, for your children, for all of humanity, thank you so very much. Okay, if you can turn around.
Listen, Marcus is not going to tackle you.
Yeah, last year I tackled a guy for saying that, so thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Gene.
Hi, Gene.